These are all the movies I watched in January. Some are new, some are old, mostly from 2023. If there's a film you're interested in, everything is time-stamped, so you can just make like a kangaroo and jump directly to those films. I'm going to start by giving my thoughts on the movies, and everything is going to be spoiler-free unless I say so don't worry, I hate spoilers. Then at the end, I'm going to give my rating and whether I recommend it or not. The first film I technically watched on New Year's Eve, but I'll count it anyway. It's Dream Scenario. And man, what a movie. If you watch the trailer, at a certain point you understand that everybody starts dreaming Nicolas Cage's character. Honestly, that's all you need to know about the story going in. I think in the debate of whether Nicolas Cage is a good actor or not, this movie definitely leans in his favor. He has such a varied filmography, but over the last few years we've seen him take on roles that are just weird and with the oddest premises, and this movie is no different. So story-wise, you'll be treated with something humorous, but also thought-provoking. I'm still trying to figure out the meaning of it all. I really liked the cinematography, and that's also thanks to the fact that it was shot on 16mm film. And for those of you who have no idea what I'm talking about, it's in the small details, like in the grain of the footage. And if you look at the lights, there's this halo, this glow, this fall-off. It's small details, but I don't know, it just makes everything look so nice. But aside from that, the film had a lot of creative visual shots that I just loved, such as the levitation moments and the earthquake scene. Overall, I found the film very entertaining, and I always wanted to know what happened next. And also, there's Michael Cera, who does a very amusing portrayal of a social media CEO. I give this film 4 stars. I think you should watch it. It's a trip. Next is the creator. And what a shame. Listen, the film is stunning. It's beautiful, it's gorgeous. It's a Pinterest board, it's moody, it's a wallpaper after a wallpaper. It's a science fiction film with this graphic novel-esque visual style to it. Like, look at the poster, you know, with the robes and the weapons sticking out and the giant machine and just like, and that pristine little font. We're talking crazy visuals. Hands down, one of the prettiest films made. And it was made on a prosumer camera, and what that means is not using one of those cameras that Nolan, for example, would use, those big IMAX cameras. Instead, it's tiny, it's really small, it's compact, it's something that is quite affordable, you know, air quotes. What this film does, it inspires a lot of filmmakers to pick up their non-Hollywood camera and shoot something and make it as beautiful as that, because it proves camera is not the defining aspect of your film. It's essential, but there's so much more. And talking about so much more, cinematography is much more. The director of photography, Greg Fraser, which is the guy behind Dune and The Batman, clearly somebody who's got style, proves that there's a lot of elements that go into it. And I think one of the elements that was interesting about this film was that it was all shot on location. So not only did that cut costs on the budget, but it made everything seem more realistic, and it really could give a really realistic tone to which was a very visual effects heavy movie. The problem is the script. The film starts off well. It's a story about the human race against artificial intelligence. Standard sci-fi stuff. It's just there are great inconsistencies and moments that made me mad at the unbelievability, such as plot holes and Deus Ex Machina moments. And these types of movies are all about the suspension of belief. They build a world in which in the first 20 minutes they need to convince you that this could be a reality. But I think it falls victims to a lot of cliches that I haven't seen in a while, and I'm just disappointed at the wasted potential. I give this film 2 stars, but I still think this film is worth watching, especially if you like sci-fi films or even moody films. It's still got great spectacle, great entertainment, and it's a great cinematic achievement in my eyes. Now I'm just going to quickly talk about spoilers just for a second, okay? So if you haven't seen the movie, go on, skip. Please, someone tell me how shooting a robot kills a robot. Like, if this movie was written in the 2000s, I'd get it, there's no cloud. But technology is advancing so rapidly. Are you telling me they couldn't just back up their brains? In the movie, they literally have a suitcase that can transfer human consciousness from a dead body to another body. From a dead body, the brain goes to another... You follow me, right? And they be acting like a robot is dead? Can't they just like stick a USB in it and save the guy? And then there's this scene where this guy looks at this kid, right? The little girl, and uses like 2 sticks that he just gets and just like looks at her brain parts. And like in 2 seconds, he just gets up and goes, "She can grow?" What? What even tells you that in such a short amount of time? Did the creator stick a label in there? By the way, she can grow. And in this movie, they talk about EMPs a lot. So I couldn't help but wonder why they spent millions, if not billions, on this giant spaceship in the sky that shoots bombs like we're in the Middle Ages, when they could use EMPs that they have in the movie. Alright? It's not far-fetched, it's not me that I'm just like thinking about, oh, you know, they talk about it in the movie, and robots are scared. They can just end the war. Okay, that's enough. The next film is a horror, but it made me laugh more than anything. It's Five Nights at Freddy's, and honestly, I don't have much to say about it. It was quite a successful film at the box office, but I don't think that means much. The film is based on the video games of the same name, and the story follows Josh Hutcherson's character who is struggling to find a job, and so he desperately accepts this position as a security guard at an abandoned theme restaurant. And the animatronic robots in this restaurant aren't as friendly as they appear to be. They didn't really look quite friendly from the start, so no wonder the place shut down. I just thought the story was a bit silly. That made the horror parts less scary, which kinda made the film enter comedy territory. I give this film 2 stars, and I only watched it because it's a horror film, but I didn't really deliver on that aspect. So I wouldn't go out of my way of recommending it, but if you're a fan of the video games or Judge Hutcherson, then yeah, you might be interested. Then the next film I watched was Bones and All. It stars Timothée Chalamet, and it's directed by Luca Guadagnino, but the main protagonist of the movie is Taylor Russell. And the film, as you can immediately tell from the trailers, is about cannibals. So I'm pretty sure that divides the audience in half. For the half that don't care, I'll see you in the next movie I talk about. But for those who want to stay and are interested about a young woman on a road trip movie that really likes munching on human flesh, this could interest you. What I didn't expect was the movie to be a romance. And that's silly of me because if you look at the poster, it literally has the protagonists framed in a heart. But even with that element of romance, I struggled to figure out what the movie was about. And I know movies don't have to be about something explicitly, but implicitly there's always some thematic meaning happening in the background. And I just couldn't figure out what this one was about. So I'll leave it to you guys to be the judge. This film did get a lot of high ratings, so I am in the minority here when I give it 2 stars. I don't think my judgment should stop you from watching this movie, as it might hit you differently. But for me, this is a maybe, if you're interested. Then I watched the OG Godzilla movie, and what a surprise. There have been so many Godzilla movies and kaiju movies in general. So when I set off to start with the first film, I thought it was going to be greeted by the originator of spectacle and action, but boy, was I wrong. Godzilla was an idea, not just a monster. I'm sure you've heard of how Godzilla was a metaphor for the atomic bombs that hit Japan in the Second World War. But when you watch this movie, you actually understand there's a more layered truth to that statement. I was really captivated by how human this movie was. I loved how it focused on a diverse set of characters, each with their own ideal. They all made sense, and you really understood them and their perspective. So story-wise, this was excellent. The movie is a great example of how it tears up the notion that old black and white movies are long and boring. This movie kept me invested throughout, and the cinematography was beautiful and charming. I give this film 4 stars. I think it was amazing, and if you're a fan of Godzilla, what are you waiting for? But also if you're a fan of movies like 12 Angry Men, or heck, even Arrival. These are all different movies, but there's something about them. The fact that when confronted with a problem, instead of shooting at it, you talk about it, there's poetry to be found. Then I watched the 2014 American remake. And I'm telling you right now, I gave it 2.5 stars. It just wasn't as good, and you can't even compare them really, because in spirit, they're 2 very different movies. One is questioning and pondering the destruction of it all, whilst the other one is just, look, destruction. What it lacked was that original meaning in the first film, and it didn't bring anything new to the table. Furthermore, this movie has a heavy focus on the military, which I find boring. That isn't to say military movies can't be good. If you take the example that I made before of the movie Arrival, of which I won't say much. I'm just going to take the snippet from the trailer to make you understand what I mean.
We need to make sure that they understand the difference between a weapon and a tool. Language is messy, and sometimes one can be both.
From that, you understand that this film will have a healthy critique and exploration of war. So I'm not mad if you don't watch this film. Instead, I'm going to go back to pleading that you watch Godzilla from 1954. Then I saw another easy, turn your brain off movie, Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning Part 1. It's a long title. This movie wasn't in my top favorite Mission Impossible movies, but it was still good. Some of the movies have interesting plots, some are ridiculous, and this one falls in the latter. AI is the current buzzword, and they stick it in this movie, and it could make for an interesting enemy, but I'm not sold. Overall, it's a fun action movie with great tension, and it feels like the end of an era. I give the film 3 stars. It kept me entertained. I did kind of forget about it though afterwards. It's like drinking a fresh cup of water and then peeing it moments afterwards. You move on with your life. It's entertaining. Go ahead, go watch it. Then I watched The Family Plan. I honestly forgot. Let me be real. I forgot I watched this movie. If I did not see it on my Letterboxd diary, I just wouldn't have put this in the video. Apple TV Plus's promotion was one of the biggest in the streaming wars, highlighting how they have the most brilliant and famous actors and directors, but the output was just so bland. The film has Mark Wahlberg and a baby, just how The Pacifier has Vin Diesel and a baby. I mean, it sounds like a recipe for a good time, but the movie ain't the poster. Whilst it started out okay, with the baby laughing every 2 seconds, it just felt spiceless. From the trailer, you understand that Mark Wahlberg is a normal dad with a normal life, and at a certain point, he gets targeted by assassins. And that's when you learn that he himself was an ex-assassin, but the family doesn't know about it. On paper, I don't think the story is magnificent or anything, but it's not bad either. It can go either way. And this movie manages to dumbfound you. It was pristinely made, and by that I mean it felt like an Apple commercial. Everything was clean, the shots were clean, the acting was clean, everybody looked clean, they looked clean. But there wasn't any character to it. It's one of those classic movies where you wonder why they make them. And the dramatic moments don't feel as powerful because it follows a syntax, a formula that we've seen countless times. And that means you predict everything that's going on. I give this from 2 stars. It honestly feels like a 1. I don't know why I watched it, so I don't know why you should either. Then we got a good film, BlackBerry. At least I think it was a good film. It stars Jay Baruchel, who I associate with This Is the End, and Glenn Howerton, who is from Always Sunny in Philadelphia. So we've got the classic comedy actors turned into serious roles kind of thing happening. And Jay and Glenn did a very good job. The story is straightforward. It's a biopic about the rise and fall of the BlackBerry mobile phones. So the film has an advantage of starting with an interesting true story. But luckily, the filmmaking itself is also very interesting. It had elements of faux documentary, even though it wasn't its predominant style, and it made me feel like I was peering in. The script was also very good in the sense that I found the dialogue to be very great, and it felt like they really built the characters. Something to note as well was the timeline. Sometimes biopics get lost, almost as if they don't know what to focus on. The character, the history, the relationships, it's all a messy blend. I'm looking at you, Napoleon. The Steve Jobs film, for example, written by Aaron Sorkin, explores Jobs' career in 3 different events. And what that allows you to do is focus better on the characters, so you don't get lost in the timeline. And BlackBerry does that as well in its own style, where we follow the different moments of the phone's lifespan. I gave it 3.5 stars. It's almost a 4. I think it's a good movie. It has a nice mix of laughs and tension, and I think you could like it. I assume I know you. And also it's highly rated, so you're safe. Next, I watched A Good Person. Now, I love Zach Braff. Scrubs is one of my favorite TV shows of all time, and I really loved his directorial debut, Garden State, so I'm kind of biased. I found this film to be a culmination of all of his films so far, with a more sad and dramatic subject. From the trailer, you understand that Florence Pugh's character goes through a tragic accident. The film follows the aftermath of this accident and basically shows how her life sucks now. I thought Florence Pugh's acting was incredible. She was moving, her performance felt like it was made to make you cry. Now that's something to consider. The film felt like it was trying to make you cry. By that I mean it focused on the tragedy. It's not like the audience was manipulated by it, but the script was driven by it. I know that's a weird concept. And so I wondered, why did Zach make this movie?
Well, in 2016, my sister had an aneurysm, and they kept her alive as a fraction of herself for about 2 years. Then she finally passed. My father then didn't last much longer, and then we went into COVID and lockdown, and one of my best friends who was living with me at 41 years old got COVID and died. I sat down to write something. I was staring at the blinking cursor, and this is what came out of me. I wanted to write about grief and standing back up from grief, how our lives change in a split second.
So that made me really appreciate the movie more, as I already felt whilst watching it the genuine attempt to portray pain, and the interview confirmed that. So in conclusion, I found the film to have a very, follow me here, feel-good quality to it, whilst being very, very, very sad. So if that blend interests you, Zach Braff got you.
And even though these are heavy subject matters, there's also a lot of humor folded in. Because in my own experience with trauma and grief, I was so grateful when someone would say something and there'd be a release and there'd be laughter, because your body and your mind are just craving letting some steam out of the steam engine.
I give this film 3.5 stars. I liked it, but be wary. This film does talk about heavy topics such as drugs or grief, so if that's too much for you, keep that in mind. Changing genre and mood with no warning, next is Kong Skull Island. This movie was bonkers. It has everything you want from an action movie, and it was even a bit scary. That's too much. Let's say that's shocking moments. The movie is about the king himself, and it's set in the 70s, where a bunch of soldiers and scientists go and set out to discover this mysterious island and what lies inside it. This film is part of the Monsterverse, which, if you don't know what that is an American cinematic universe which contains monsters, which are mainly King Kong and Godzilla. This film takes place in Skull Island, so Kong isn't the only beast. There are other monsters lurking about, and some of them are quite freaky. So if you don't like the sound of that, I'm sure you couldn't care less about this movie, but it has something going for it. Visual spectacle. There are scenes in this movie which make me wonder, why don't some of these blockbusters feel so vibrant? There's Samuel L. Jackson having the most badass staring contest with King Kong. There's slow motion explosions. Kong in the sunset with choppers surrounding him. Skull Island looks like a resort. The packaging is great. Never mind the content. If you're watching this movie, you're probably not here for that. I gave this movie 3 stars just for the entertainment value alone. I think the movie is a watch if you want to have a good time with friends. Like, I wouldn't suggest this movie to a film club that wants to discuss the art of cinema, the symbolism, the authorial expressiveness of the director. It has Tom Hiddleston slicing beasts with a katana. Then we've got Saltburn. The first thing that stands out for me is the cinematography. The aspect ratio is different from other modern films, even though it's having a comeback. And there's an incredible use of color, from the artificial lighting to the natural lighting. Everything has a distinct mood, and the compositions are very striking too. It kind of follows a Michael Bay philosophy. Why the hell am I talking about Michael Bay, you ask? What I mean by that is, if you watch a Michael Bay movie, you notice how he tries to make every single shot as dynamic or cinematic as possible. He's relentless. The camera's always moving, everything has to look cool constantly, and so his movies stand out. And the same thing applies to Saltburn and the artsy sense. The film doesn't sprinkle good shots here and there. Every frame goes all out and always tries to be as visually striking as possible. And if you look at the cinematographer's work, you'll see that he has an excellent grasp of color theory and composition. All of his stuff looks amazing. Oh, and side note, after watching Euphoria, I did not expect to find Jacob Elordi, who plays a character that's a psychopath, basically.
What the fuck is wrong with you? What the fuck is wrong with you?
Okay.
To be cute. I really wanted to watch this movie because the director Emerald Fennell made A Promising Young Woman, which I really liked, and I was really curious to see what she makes next. So I'm saying this now, I give this film 3 stars, but I'm not sure if it's a watch. I mean, if you like mystery stories, then voila, it's on Prime, it's pretty, go ahead. From the trailer, you don't understand much about the story, so if that's how they intended it to be, I won't say much about it either. What I can say is the film left me wondering whether I liked it or not. There were some elements story-wise which didn't really convince me, but I can't say anything without spoiling the movie, so if you don't want spoilers, go on, this is your chance. Giving you a moment to skip. I personally felt like the film relied too much on the plot twist. I've talked about this with others, and some have said that they predicted the ending. I, on the other hand, had no clue what was going to happen. I did not expect that this, how can we put it? Bodily fluid obsessed guy was after the estate. Barry's penis wiggling about Saltburn as if he had planned everything meticulously. I just didn't see that coming. They even had the whole recap at the end, and I was still like, nah. After being kicked out of Saltburn, are you telling me all he had to do was just wait a while and then just sit in a cafe, the right cafe, waiting for the mum to invite him back to Saltburn and give him Saltburn? And then there's the why of it all. He doesn't need that much money, because if you look at his family, they're well off. They seem loving and caring. He's the oddest psychopath I've ever seen represented on screen. This movie is so not leading towards the plot twist, in my opinion, and I'm more shocked than surprised. I'm referencing this quote by Andrew Stanton, a Pixar writer and director, where he says,
"Stories are inevitable if they're good, but they're not predictable."
And I found this film to be neither, because I found that too much was hidden from us to make a prediction, and therefore I didn't see how the ending was inevitable. The story before the ending, I found it to be about a young man who's confused, and the tension came from the relationship between the characters. Yes, towards the end people start dying and things become a bit more dodgy, but why show me the shot of Barry poking Jacob's grave? To me, that indicates more towards this plot of a confused young man as opposed to a devious mastermind. Still, this movie's got me talking. I like it. What do you think? I've given some hot takes, so I'm ready to be burned in the comments. Please be kind. Remember all the good times we had. Then we got Sofia Coppola's next movie, Priscilla. Now, when this was announced, I thought it was a perfect response to the Elvis movie that came out the year before. The two are such a contrast, from visuals to themes. My first thoughts after watching this movie is how this was a needed revision of Elvis. This movie is very Sofia Coppola. If you know her movies, they are basically a moving mood board. Sofia has been making A24 style movies way before A24 was even a thing. Some people say that her films are all style and no substance, but I beg to differ. I think that she always finds a lot of substance to talk about. The reason some people might find her work a bit frivolous is perhaps because of her editing style. In Priscilla, for example, there are a lot of moments which felt like slideshow edits. I wouldn't know how else to describe it. So there isn't a traditional film structure to hook on. But that also means that her films allow for a more unique character study, and what might seem like technically empty shots are actually filled with unspoken emotion. I think Sofia was the perfect person to make this movie and to tell Priscilla's story. I did think the ending suffered from her trademark open ending, but I still give the film 3.5 stars. It's a good movie, and it's a must-watch if you care about Elvis or Priscilla. And also if you're looking for a movie night to add a bit of culture after watching The Family Plan. By the way, thank you so much for making it this far into the video and just listening to me talk about movies. I enjoy doing it, and if you do too, subscribing helps motivate me to make more of these videos. Liking the video also helps the deity that we call the algorithm. And also read all of your comments. I treat this little space like my little film club, so please, I love hearing your thoughts. Alright, next up is Jules, and I found this movie to not be very popular, as on Letterboxd it had 15,000 watches, as opposed to Priscilla, which had 472 watches at the time of making this video. But I saw the film was highly rated, and my parents like Ben Kingsley, so I thought it would be a fun movie night with them. And I was right. From the trailer, the film straight up tells you that a UFO crashes into an old man's garden and, very important, crushes his azaleas.
A UFO has crashed in my backyard and has taken out my azaleas and has destroyed my bird bath.
So if you care about old men's gardens, you'll be very invested. Then the film follows the bond that the man creates with this alien, and also with two unlikely characters which are his neighbors. We all know representation is great, and that also includes the representation of the elderly. It's really nice to see, especially when they're not sub-stories about their only defining quality, their old age. Don't get me wrong, this film does have that as well, but it's not the main focus. For an alien movie, it's overall very human and very touching, full of adorable moments. I feel like Raven from Teen Titans Go.
Ah, look at these little scamps. I love old people.
I give this film 3.5 stars. I think it's an underrated watch, and if you're the kind of person that spends 30 minutes trying to figure out what to watch, this is a safe bet. The last movie is 1001, and sorry to end on a bummer, because this movie is a bummer. I didn't actually know about this movie. My father found it on Sky Go. I forget it's a thing. But the film did really well at festivals, and it actually won the Grand Jury Prize at the 2023 Sundance Film Festival, which is always a great seal of approval. Now about the actual movie. Geez, what a heartbreak. It's set in Harlem in the 90s and 2000s, and it follows the story of a mom and her son. The director is a New Yorker, and if there's one thing New Yorkers do really well, is talk about New York. The film is gritty and it's harsh, and it's about the struggles of Black America that we all know too well, but what this film has going for it is its characters. Oh, the characters. This must be some magical writing, because I felt like I knew them so well. I knew how they'd react and why they'd react that way. And that last part is very important. Everything was described so well, so everything they did made sense. And you don't doubt what's happening. After the first few minutes of orientation, you understand where you are, and you just live with these characters for the duration of the film. I think it's a tough watch in the sense that it requires a charged emotional battery, because this film gonna drain you. But it's worth the toll. What I also loved from the movie was the time frame. You understand from this movie that there are big time jumps, similar to Moonlight or movies like A Place Beyond the Pines, where there are a lot of changes in the meantime, both in the world and the character's age. I think these movies are a whole genre. I give this film 4 stars. It's just shy from a 5, but I think it's a great watch. And with that, we're done. Thanks.